live. Episode 2.
Episode 2.
You guys ready?
At Partner Summit.
All right. I am Michael Belwomany, Vice President of Mergers and Acquisitions.
Jeff Harris, AVP, Mergers and Acquisitions, running alongside Michael here.
And we have our news special guest, Trey Wiltse. We're going to show the
Kansas
video
City.
And then let you introduce yourself here in just a second. And we're good. Trey, introduce yourself. How do people know you?
Well, thanks for having me, by the way, particularly on your second episode. Congrats.
Yeah, not quite our maiden voyage, but we knew we wanted to have you on early.
Well, new to Carson. This is just after our 1-year anniversary.
That's right.
So we're just kind of working through the transition and really getting to know Carson better now. It's been great. My background, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm turning 50 next year, right? And I've been doing this since I was 19.
Well, don't look it.
Thank you. I love you.
I told somebody you were 46 the other day, so well done.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a tough 4 year. No, I've been doing it since I was 19, and I actually ran into the guy who hired me the other day at dinner that hired me when I was 19 at Merrill Lynch. Cold calling.
Yeah.
Running seminars. Tough. That was not easy work or fun work, but
No.
it was how the business was back then.
Right.
Went to Northwestern Mutual my senior year of college. Mm-hmm. That was the only place in the world that would hire you, license you, give you cards, and let you go produce while you were still in college. So my senior year, my thought was, let me get cranking early because it was 100% commission back then.
Smile and dial.
Yeah. I'd actually go park outside of nice homes with my yellow cards and call because I needed some inspiration, right? It's like someday. But no, I started there in college so that my pipeline could be full the day I graduated and I could actually maybe get a check when I started. And they were great. They did a good job. I had some really unique, great clients early on, super high income, emerging entrepreneurs, found a little niche with a CPA firm and a attorney, and just worked through these. This was back in 2000. They were probably making $500,000 to $1 million a year each, and they were all networked together.
Right.
And as they evolved, I evolved, right? So as they had not just income but assets, I needed an RIA, an investment firm, to help support them. So I went out and found Jack Lindsay was a member at our golf club, and he was actually looking for someone in my capacity. And Craig Splan was there as well. And he had Lindsay Financial Services. I became a partner there in 2005. We formed Integrated Wealth when we became partners together and merged what we had done. Grew that from, I think he had 125 clients and 90 million to not that many more clients, a couple hundred, but maybe 330 million over a short time span. And then he wanted to retire. So we did an acquisition and bought him out. And that's when the firm really changed, right? We went from individuals running a silo and just kind of sharing resources to rebranding and integrating the firm. So we spent about 4 or 5 years of really trying to bring Integrated Wealth into something we were super proud of that could serve clients more collectively, similar processes, similar systems, and then build ourselves for the next go, right? You're only going to grow so much as silos, but if we can build a firm that can also just jump into enterprise and add 10 advisors and scale and be ready, we were really trying to build it. We got it there. We were maybe $500 million in assets, and we were finally ready to go. We hadn't really we've grown without adding households. So during that whole time, we basically only would add 10 clients a year through attrition. So we were forced into this upmarket strategic initiative where if we lost one of our long range clients that maybe had $300,000 and passed away, we're going to backfill them with a $5 million. Right. And so we were able to grow through a attrition strategy. And then we reached kind of this wall as a firm. We were proud of the firm, but we kind of hit a capacity wall. We had built this, I call it my $1 billion plan, right? It was to try and scale up to where we could get out of ops, hire in a management team, et cetera. And that was really 8 months of building that plan and getting ready to launch it was what led to this.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's exactly why we wanted you on for the second episode. We were having a conversation when we were talking about what's our arc for the season or what do we want to accomplish. And we can do this all day, every day. We talk through what an acquisition looks like, but we wanted to have an advisor that has gone through it for the reasons you mentioned, the capacity wise. The succession or continuity is something we see all the time, but the sexy deals, the ones we really like doing, are the ones that involve somebody that wants to continue to grow. And I tell the story to this day about the first call we had where Bill said, one of your partners, we're going to go with a firm that we feel is a better cultural fit and a firm that's going to help us get to $1 billion faster than anybody else. That was attractive to us. So what I like about this conversation we're going to have is you can take us from the start of why did you decide, or what led you to the belief that a sale made sense, or any sort of transaction. Who did you choose to represent you, and what did they do to bring you to market? And then what that process sort of looked like and how it unfolded. And I think Jeff and I will kind of come in and talk about it from our perspective as we were introduced probably after you'd been working with Echelon for months at that time. And then I also want to make sure we save some time to talk through what's life been like post-transaction. What do you wish you would have known before you went into the process? What was something that you expected that maybe was pleasantly surprising? And then also, we just want to get your take on what have you done, or what would you give your 19-year-old self? What sort of advice would you impart on him now that you've been doing this?
I always try and put my feet in the shoes of someone who's going through the selling process. And I think that no better way than talking to somebody who's actually gone through it. So I think that this episode is super important for those people contemplating selling or who are actually currently in the process to get to directly hear it from Trey himself, who has walked that path. So
you actually just touched on something that's my favorite thing in the business today.
Golf.
Second favorite thing in business today is mentoring young up-and-coming advisors. I golf and I teach golf, and why I do it is because it takes me back to the fundamentals, right? I remember and think better when I have to articulate to someone else how to do something. It makes me better at the craft as well. I love doing it. Anyway, I go back to this $1 billion plan, right? And that was very creatively the name on the PowerPoint, the $1 billion plan.
I'm sure.
And it was not an ego thing to ramp to that. It was really scale had been escaping us. Like every 100 million used to be the number. 300 million used to be the number. If you had that, you had enough scale to operate efficiently. 500, and then it did jump from 300 to $1 billion real fast. And we were finding ourselves working 60-hour weeks. My partners are Craig Splan and Bill Day. And we're working 60-hour weeks. And that's not because we were spending more time with clients, right? It was just the operational stuff.
Spending time in the business.
And so the scaling up was to get us out of ops, right? And so this plan was so good, right? Had great pictures, good data.
I got to see this PowerPoint now.
Oh, it is. It is.
I'm sure
it
you
is.
have.
And so we'd built this thing, and we were ready to go and launch it. Partners loved it, and I think it was Bill or Craig, I can't remember, Bill maybe, said, why wouldn't everybody do this? And I'm like, well, because it's a lot of risk. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, one, there's acquisition strategy in here, so you're going to lever up a little bit.
Right.
And two, our margins are gone. Like we're at 60% now. That's really cool, but we're going to be like a 35% profit margin because we're going to take all the profits and throw it back into the business to hire, build out infrastructure, et cetera. And it's going to be ahead of the revenue. So I got this look from both of them, like, wait, say that again. Right. And, Craig had just gotten through an acquisition and paid off the debt. And he's like, I don't know if I have a 10-year time horizon to reap the benefits of all that heavy lift.
So let's pause real quick, because I think that's important and that's something unique about the firm. Talk about the age ranges of the three partners.
Craig's like 62, 63, Bill's mid 50s. I'm 49. So we're staggered in here. And that was always something that Jack taught us is think about that. And part of this was thinking about that evolution and transition. With that plan, we were going to have another 6 or 7 advisors and again, staggering that age. So when one goes out, it's not detrimental to the firm.
You've got a bench.
So this was not, let's build it so we make more money. It's let's build it so that we can do our craft better, serve clients better, have something we're super proud of that can live well beyond us. Right. When we're out, it still operates and grows in our absence. But, we had just finally got to paying ourselves after 5 years of paying the bank from
Right.
our first acquisition. And my other partner looked at me and said, wait, you want to take all that away again?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, isn't that great? And so
they really loved you at that
so-
point in time, huh?
Bill knew some of the founders of another firm similar to you in our city that he'd been visiting with, and he'd been understanding the scope of that. And as a former wholesaler, he'd seen the inside of some of those places. And so we were just kind of at the point where it was like, do we really want to build it?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we want to partner with someone that already has it?
Yeah.
And because by the time I get it done and built, you guys are now going to be another 10 years ahead of me, right? I'm going to be chasing.
Yeah.
Right.
I was terrified of the process.
Yeah.
Right. And I felt like we were giving up and conceding. Right. And it scared me. But I also understood their perspective. And I think my aha moment was not only understanding their view of it and that it might still be best for clients, even though my entrepreneurial spirit wanted to say, go build it.
Mm-hmm.
It was when we had an acquisition in the pipeline. And then we were also talking about how would we buy Craig stock from him as he wanted to exit in the future. And I was on the phone with my banker on a Sunday talking through how we were going to structure that. And I realized if I self-finance or if I bank finance this on a 7-year AM, I can offer 6.5 times earnings tops.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm straddled with that for a while.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm not in growth mode. I'll call you guys outside RIAs.
Right.
Your capital structure is completely different. You can offer a multiple in excess of that the way it's structured. And so it occurred to me, I'm either going to ask people internally to take a 30-40% discount on what they've worked their life to do and take risk doing it, or I'm going to lose every deal we go after because I'm 40% less competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So my aha moment was we all had different goals. Craig wanted to offload operations and find support there. Bill wanted to find community.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean resources, right? Be able to pick up the phone and have someone doing our marketing. So we're not driving all of that, to have someone doing the investment model. So he wanted a community of resources. I wanted capital.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to touch on a couple things here that you said. You talked about the evolution of your firm operating in silos and coming to the realization that what's going to maximize your enterprise value is creating that ensemble practice. I think for RIAs who are looking to do M&A, that's a super attractive quality in finding that next firm, is making sure you're operating as an ensemble, so that there's that easier integration period for when you do partner with a firm like a Carson or one of those other bigger RIAs.
I couldn't agree more. I'd even say it's almost a prerequisite.
Yes.
Like if you're really going to go to market and try and achieve any sort of market rate compensation multiple, you have to be an ensemble.
Yeah.
You can solve for the silos. Like
you can.
Where you get a lot more creative and there's a lot more risk in the business. I mean, you've seen it just from buying a business and integrating it into yours.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot harder to do.
Yeah. And the second thing I was going to say is, what really attracted us to your firm was what we just laid out, is the different age of the three advisors, knowing that you each have different time periods.
You can say it. I'm the youngest.
Okay. Yeah. Trey is the youngest, confirmed, significantly younger, you taller, good looking. You need me to keep going? Or?
No,
So that was definitely a quality that really attracted us. We knew that there's going to be a long time horizon for all the advisors, that the when Craig decides to phase out, or Bill decides to phase out, or whoever it is, that those clients are going to continue to remain with the firm because of the relationship you guys built over time. The second thing is, you said your billion dollar PowerPoint. You mentioned that to us on that first call. We like investing in growth-minded advisors like yourself, and that's a super attractive quality. No, not only were you guys already currently growing, but you had plans for the future to partner with an organization like Carson to help you achieve and get to that $1 billion.
And I
goal.
think there was thoughtfulness behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, we recognized early that everybody says they want to grow, but we recognized right away that there was actually a plan in place. You had a track record of success. There was organic growth, excess of X market.
Yep.
It wasn't just riding highs and lows. You were attracting upmarket clients, not replacing them with mass affluent. Nothing against the mass affluent, but you were building something different and special. So this is a good segue. So you decide that you're going to look to the market. And I'll also mention our friends at DeVoe and Company do some great research on this. You and I were just talking about a slide about just how many RIA owners are grappling with this issue of internal succession right now. And I think
in everyone.
Isn't everyone? Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
What is it?
When-
18%?
When
are
we got
confident?
done,
Yeah.
I got probably 20 phone calls,
Right.
some from local community, guys at my golf club, whatever, that are in our business saying, "What? Tell me about it. From our broker dealer, etc. There's a hunger, there's an appetite because it's approaching all of us,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And you can't ignore it. It's there. It's a little scary, right? I was sitting next to Bob Carnes last night, and he said the toughest thing is taking your name off the door.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There is no
Yeah.
truer word spoken. You spend 25 years, and this is really what I think holds people back.
Yeah.
One, we're control freaks. We're independent, right? Like we
Mhm.
wanted to do it ourselves.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
reason
And
you're
so
not
there's-
at Merrill Lynch. Right.
Yeah, and the other one is like you've put 25, 30 years in some cases into that brand identity. Like your whatever logo and name that is more than a logo and a name.
Mm-hmm.
And you're afraid of losing that,
Mhm.
right? Losing that culture, that identity. So I had my imperatives when we were going through this process, and the reason Echelon popped up is I didn't know what I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to be naive about it. I didn't want to find something that wasn't the right fit for us or for our clients. We hadn't explored it really at all outside of our local market, knowing some of the firms. So because we had different objectives, I called Dan Sievert, who I'd known
Mm-hmm.
over the years at Echelon Partners. And I said, Dan, we're at a crossroad here in the firm. Like we have different visions and timelines, and we don't know how to pull all this off together. And he said, you can check every one of those boxes
Right.
in this process, I promise you.
Yeah.
Right. And he convinced me, he convinced them to hire them and go through that process. I would say the keys to success, looking back at going into this, or any advisor thinking about it, front end is prepare, right? You're as good as your preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So and Echelon really was our champion on this. We spent 4 months, heavier due diligence on that than we were on the back end.
Yeah.
Right. But it was them. It was creating that SIM book, that memorandum.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing in that process for us up to that point in time was how do we articulate who we are as a firm, what differentiates us as a firm, what our identity is, what our
Mhm.
pathway is, what our plan is, each of us as
Yeah.
our staff, not just the financials in the back of the book.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to convey culture in that book
Yeah.
too, which is a lot easier
Not easy
said
to
than
do
done.
for a small
Yeah.
firm. We don't have marketing,
Yeah.
right? So prepare. That was a lot of work. And then they release it, right? And that is a bizarre window of time because you're putting yourself out there and you don't know if anyone cares.
I would imagine it's like signing up for the dating app.
It's exciting, but nerve-wracking at the
Post your
same time.
and then you're waiting for the response.
Who's gonna click me right for the Tinder or left, whatever it is? I don't
So
know.
that one pager, that teaser page,
Yep.
goes out to 75 firms. And we wait.
Mhm.
And we waited a week or 10 days, something like that.
I can't believe it even took that long.
And there's that Friday, I get a call, there's 12 LOIs. It's like, really? So then,
I'm sorry. Let's because we work with about 45 different banks now, banks or matchmakers. Let's pause for a moment just for the average viewer that doesn't know the difference between a matchmaker or a recruiter or an investment bank.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let you answer first. How would you describe Echelon or an investment bank from the way they run a process, how they're compensated, and who they represent?
I mean, they're representing us on the
Right.
sell side, right? Clearly. And I mean, they're going to educate us, take us to market, find a pool of potential buyers. At that point in time, I don't know anything about these firms. They do.
Right.
So they're our guide because I don't have time. This stuff happens fast, right? This isn't a cultural fit. That one's not. That one's not. That one's not. These 5 are, right? And they're able to kind of walk through pros and cons.
Yeah.
They have a sheet that comes out every week, and it would say, okay, this firm will let you keep your custodian. This firm will let you keep your brand. This one, and it was all the details of every firm, and then of course the number at the bottom of what and how they would pay out and their structure.
Right.
And you compared all these, and they just kind of kept going back, and we'd
Yeah.
eliminate, and so it's an expensive proposition. Very.
Mhm.
It's scary from the standpoint as good as they did at getting us to the end goal. When you sign that contract, you're
You're locked in.
you're done.
Yeah.
Right. you're not backing out. If you're an individual, maybe. The run rate was about $100,000 a month. So 6 months in, if you get to the end and those two firms left standing aren't a good fit, are you really going to pull back and not move forward? That was what was the reality that I was concerned about. Now, I might have pulled back, but you're not the only vote in a partnership.
Yeah.
And some of these have a lot of votes. And so you have to think about that piece. If you're going down that path, yeah, you're going to find a deal, but you're probably going to be compelled to take it, even if it's not the perfect fit. That scared me.
Okay. Yeah.
It turns out we got to the right fit.
Right.
I don't know if everybody does.
No, it's a great point. And I would say that's one of the things that working with an investment bank, that's attractive to us as buyers, because we know that firm is going to be well represented. There's usually a network of attorneys and or CPAs they can introduce you to if you don't already have representation.
Yep. We had a great attorney.
They do an amazing job at putting together financials. Echelon does a really, really nice SIM document and financial package. So we know we're getting data that's accurate.
Yeah.
It's timely. It's exactly what we're looking for. Just quick aside, after we signed the LOI, I think an eye-opening moment for us was when we kicked off our due diligence and we said, all right, we're going to need these 80 things from you to make sure that this transaction makes sense. And Craig said,
I got 80% of it done within like the day. So
it's in the data room already. Double check it. And we already had everything. So that's another attractive thing. But most importantly, we know there's motivation to actually transact. They're not window shoppers. It's not somebody that's just out looking at firms to look at firms or to be courted. They are looking to achieve something, and they've got somebody sort of guiding them through the process. But to your point, it's expensive. So you, as the seller, are paying the fee to the investment banker to represent you to the market.
Yeah. Now, it's out of a successsion fee on the back end.
Yeah.
But you're paying, so that $100,000 a month is coming out of the back end.
Yeah.
Right?
I would say the important thing is if you are trying to explore an investment banking option, make sure that the investment banker is going to help you find that right cultural alignment, not necessarily the price tag. There can be the price tag where they're going to get you the highest valuation, but it may not be the best fit. So you need to make sure going into it that your motives and your priorities are straight on finding that cultural fit. Because at the end of the day, you're going to continue to do business. I mean, you're essentially married with the firm that you're going to be doing your future with. So you want to make sure it's an alignment.
I would also say create right expectations. I mean, I would tell anyone who's thinking about doing this, your expectations probably need to be in alignment with what reality of this situation is. Let's say it's a 6-7 month window. Your family better know it too.
Right.
You have a day job till 5:30, let's say. Well, our investment bank was West Coast, so they're kicking out the stuff we need to read, those letter of intents. I got to read all of them. So all those contracts, all the proposals, the deal structures, everything, that's all coming out at like 5:30 West Coast time.
We actually joked to that.
I was just going to joke about it too.
So Echelon, God love them, 5:38 p.m. Central Time.
Ding!
That's what ding! It's almost like a timer.
Yeah.
So at 7:30, I'd be in there talking to my wife, and I'd hear ping. It's like, oh, got to go to work, babe. And I'd be in there from 7:30 to 11 every night.
Right.
Reading stuff, reading spreadsheets, going through stuff, trying to basically reconcile maybe our financials with their financials or answer questions. So there's an expectation that this is work, right? And it's a lot of work, as it should be. You're making decisions that impact your family, you, your clients, everybody.
Yeah.
And you don't want to just wing it till the end and then hope you did it right. And the other parts, emotions, I cannot express enough. If you're getting ready to go through this process, to identify, and even for you guys to understand from this seat what the emotion of that is like. That taking the name off the door. Look, if you guys get to Kansas City, come to my house, I'm going to open the garage door, and when you pull in the parking spot, there's still a sign that says "Reserve Parking, Integrated Well." That's your baby, and you don't want to let that go. And so there's some emotion attached there. There's the fear of all the what ifs. There's the fear of what is life after. I've been a business owner. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been able to make decisions. Am I going to lose that? Am I going to be employed? Am I going to find the right culture? Are my clients still going to trust me and like me? I mean, there's the emotion of, and I'll take you to a moment that will forever be in my mind. Right. And it was the day that it was a Friday night, 7:30 ping. And I'm sitting in front of my computer and I don't come back out, and Brooke comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "Hey, hang it up for the night, man. You can work this weekend. It's Saturday or Friday. Like, hang it up." And I said, "Brooke, just stop talking." She goes, "What?" I said, "Sit down." So she sits on my lap, and she looks at what I'm looking at, and it was the offers.
Mm-hmm.
There's an emotion of having someone value your life's work
and what you built. Yeah.
That emotion can be horrific if someone says what you've done isn't worth what you think it is.
Yeah.
But when it's so far in excess of anything you ever expected, there's a humility, a gratitude, a oh my God moment.
Yeah.
Right. I sit there and cried. I got a call like 10 minutes later from Craig crying. It's special. So you go through this litany of emotions. And so from the other side, I would say one of the things was those bankers really coached you.
Yeah.
Right. And kept you on kill. And I know this from dealing with, I do M&A with a lot of clients. Mm-hmm. It's a roller coaster. Right. Mm-hmm. You got to be prepared for that. So I would say those are some of the things I would tell anyone who's thinking about going through this process. Is just prepare yourself for the work, prepare on the front end, and then just be prepared. Those emotions aren't a bad thing. It's like getting married. You're going to go through a cycle of things.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not one and done. You're going to deal with it at every single one of those milestones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I want to keep us kind of on track here. I want to ask you, why Carson? Why did you and your business partners choose Carson? And then what's life like post-acquisition?
Easy. There's a number one that I can't believe is not everybody's number one. Maybe it is, but longevity, right? When I think of you guys, of the 12 firms we started talking to, and that winnowed down to about 6, there's one other firm. Everybody else talked about transactions, deals, and exits, flips. Everybody else, that was all they talked about. You guys and one other firm talked about longevity. First thing Ron said when we talked to him was, "I want to hit 100 years."
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That mattered to me because clients entrust us with a great deal of stewardship. And the last thing I want to do is take them somewhere and then have it flip and culture changes.
Right. Yet again. Right.
Yep. I would say the other is ops, the operations. You guys are unique. And I don't know if you know just how unique you are in this regard. We were, I think, the 7th, I could be wrong, but the 7th wholly owned direct acquisition. And you already had 350 people working-ish, something like that, working in Omaha. That's bizarre, right? Mm-hmm. The other firm, we were their 5th or 6th. They had about 10 people, right? Because that's what they needed to support that group. But you guys have been supporting 100 firms already, so your infrastructure was in place.
Yeah.
You might be new to this channel, but your infrastructure wasn't.
Right.
And so that mattered a lot. And then I would say the other is location. I'm kind of a sucker for Midwest values.
Yeah.
Right. We've always worked with other Midwest firms. And that matters to me a lot. There's a connection there, and there's a person to person stuff that just you don't get elsewhere. And we're 3 hours away, right?
Mm-hmm.
2.5.
So nice.
It's something in the water probably, right?
Yeah. It is great though, being able to drive up and spend an afternoon and evening with us, or vice versa. Like us coming down to see you guys. It's a huge benefit.
It's more important to me almost that you're not in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Because we've got 2 of the largest RAs in the universe right next door to us. Well, I've competed against them for 15 years.
Literally next door.
Yeah.
The hotel room, I can see 2 of the 3 from the window.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at them every day, and I'm competing. Every client that walked through our office I said, "Who else are you talking to?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we have built ourselves as a brand as not them.
Yeah.
Right? That was our brand identity and differentiator. We're not them. We're a small boutique. It's personal. And that's what we were hired to do. So if we went there, we're also not going to keep our office. They're going to roll us up.
Right.
And we just became the thing that they didn't hire in their selection process.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. And it's tough to sell against what you've been selling for so long.
And I competed with a lot of integrity. I never bashed those firms, but a lot of firms in Kansas City probably do.
Yeah.
So if part of our strategy was acquisition, and there's a whole bunch of small independent investment firms in Kansas City, they would love some outside capital to come into this marketplace that they've never competed with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Those were 3 things that I think stood out. Culture, obviously. Yeah. Like I love the culture here, but those were probably my initial imperatives.
That's great. So looking back, How long did the process take, start to finish? I think we first talked to you in September of 22.
Mm-hmm.
We signed the LOI December 13th, I think,
Yes.
of 22.
Yep.
We closed early April of 23.
Yeah, I think we started the process in July, maybe.
July. So
Okay.
July to April. That's good for everybody to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a process involved with this. It is not like changing dry cleaners. You don't make a decision and do it the next day.
Mm-mm.
There's a long time frame.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you wish you would have known about the entire process, about the transaction, about structure, financials, any of it? What's something you wish you would have known in July of 22 that you didn't know? Nothing.
All right, so I'm in a unique spot here. Bill Day and I talked about this a little bit because I've been through this M&A stuff with clients for so long. I had a feel for how the process works, and my wife had just gone through a deal where her company she was president of had just been bought by private equity, but they'd been to market like 3 times and pulled back.
Yeah.
So I was familiar with the process, and then by having Dan and Brett Mulder to talk to, they prepared us really well for what to expect. So I don't feel like I was ever really caught off guard with anything. I felt like they coached us well. I kind of knew what to expect going in. So I don't know that I would. I think it's those first 3 things I mentioned about having right expectations, understanding the emotional side of it.
Setting the proper expectations is important. And Brett, I love the fact that he joined you guys in the visit to Omaha.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference. Just having that
for them to see it as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's planes, trains, and automobiles at that moment in time because you're making the rounds.
Going to another firm
it's like we're going to
ours.
Chicago, and then we're going to go see this firm in Chicago, and then it's like you get up and you kind of dance, right? It's a weird thing to go through, and you're constantly trying to articulate who you are and why. Right. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, learn as much as you can about the other firms. So it's kind of this dating process,
right?
And then narrowing down. But you would ask something else.
Just life post with Carson. Yeah.
Transitions are tricky.
Yep.
Right.
That's a diplomatic way of putting it.
I like how you put it though.
But the one thing, and my wife mentioned this to me today too, because she's in franchise, and the people that do the best engage, right? Mm-hmm. But I've tried to engage and get up here every month and adopt what you guys are doing. And I think if you do that, you're going to have a higher success rate post-transition and a more enjoyable experience because you're accepting the culture as opposed to just kind of staying out on an island and saying, well, I didn't do it that way. Like I would have done it different, right? And fighting the system a little bit. Adopt what you guys are doing and engage and embrace the fact that you guys have done this before, right? And accept it. And I think you have a much, much, much better outcome on the other side. And I, for one, like I have this second shot at my career, which is, I started with big company, we went independent. Now I'm with a big firm again. Even though we're independent and boutique over there, there's all this over here in Omaha, and to be able to pop over and be a part of that, to be on Friday calls every Friday morning with other advisors sharing successes and ideas. There's at any point in time, I can think of a dozen people I can call for ideas.
Well, even this weekend too, the partner summit, we just bring all of our partners and all the offices together so you guys can share best practices and ideas so that you guys continue to grow together.
Yeah. You've been a roaring success. I mean, from a Carson perspective, it's one of the best deals we've ever done. You are one of, if not the fastest growing office we have. Your personal success. I love getting the Friday call from Trey that says, hey, what are you doing? So heading out. I just picked up a $10 million client, picked up a $5 million client. And I love being a part of that success.
I like him more than you.
Oh, I know you do. I know you do. So it's been terrific. And the community aspect for Bill too, I think that's important. I mean, we're actively engaged right now in a potential sub-acquisition that would add 2 other advisors to the office, including one in his 30s. So further trying to build out this generational talent.
Yeah.
So you guys have been fantastic. All right. So I have to ask a question. Going back to your 19-year-old self, we talked about this beforehand. What's the advice you would give yourself?
Easy. I just gave it. I was talking to a college kid and he goes, what do I do? Where do I said, he was talking about internships and how to prepare. And I said, first off, know more than everybody in your field. Mm-hmm. Have more knowledge of your craft than anybody, period. Number one. Equal parts network. So the minute you leave class, you go study, you read, you watch finance movies, podcasts, whatever it is you need to do to absorb information and be knowledgeable. But then you got to go network because you got to have application. In his case, he might network with people like us because it's people that can open doors for him. When I got out of college and got into business, my network were other advisors, people that shared similar clients and could help support my growth. Those have become my pipeline still today.
Yeah.
25 years later, most of my business comes from those advisors and those centers of influence. And then the other was just the businesses that the business owners and the people that I associated with. I mean this in no offensive way whatsoever. Good way to lead into something, right? And not stereotypical, but I think it was my general agent, my first job, first year said, rich people don't bowl.
Yeah. And
I'm like, that's a weird thing to say, but I know what he meant, which is, where is my audience, right? Well, my audience, if I wanted a very affluent market at 24 years old, was on the golf course, right? So I joined the most exclusive golf course I could. They travel, they collect cars, they drink fine wine. Like, if I'm going to spend time with them, it's going to be in those places. So basically what he's saying is, get out in that market and network and know people and know what what they want and become connected to that market. I thought that was brilliant advice. And when you asked how that business came in, I think my answer was so dumb. It was like, I don't know. I just pick up the phone, right? But it was because we didn't have some super intentional marketing strategy pipeline built. But then I realized, like, when I answered that kid's question, no, we built that pipeline 25 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very intentionally. And then we went through an upmarket strategy where it was all about how do we brand that, and we did it again. And so it was the seeds of what we did years ago, very intentionally. Where do I spend my time at 8:00 at night? Is it, playing games, or is it out in front of people or studying?
Well, I know we can continue to talk about this. I think we just need to have Trey on again. I think there's just so much more to dive into this that sellers need to hear. That's all you got. That's it. All right, we're done. We're done. But no, we really appreciate you having you on here, Trey. I think we look forward to just hearing more of your stories and more of your success. We just continue to look forward to that. And Michael, I meant to mention this at the beginning of the stream here, but your suit is amazing. I am excited to see how you're going to top it next month.
It's all downhill.
They don't see the purple socks. That's all.
That's out of camera frame. Big thanks to Trey for joining us. Big thanks to Chelsea Balfour for her production work, making this possible. Second episode today. Third episode is June 20th. Yep. So we're a little off our normal schedule. You're going to be out of town. I'm going to be out of town. We got some, hopefully some deals to close in between there. So we'll have something to announce. But really appreciate your time today, Trey.
Thank you guys. This gives me a lot of cool credits with my kids too.
There you go. That's why we invited you, just for the cool credits with your kids.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you.